to another episode of the No Further Comments podcast. This is the Basketball Insider Edition. I'm your co-host, Alex Meacham, and to my left is our intern, Will Sultan.
What's up?
Who's a senior at Anderson High School, great tennis player, who's recently committed to Dipole with a W.
With a W. Greencastle.
Going to play tennis. Excited about that?
Yeah, I'm pumped.
You're in the weight room, getting big.
Already big, just getting bigger.
Wait. You're already big?
No, I'm just getting bigger.
You sure? Okay. How much do you weigh?
Like 160.
160?
Yeah.
What do you plan to get to?
Oh, I want to be like 175 by let's go end of summer. It's reasonable.
You better start watching The Rock's Instagram and pick up some lifting tips from him. All right. I want to jump into some high school hoops right away. Now, you go to Anderson High School. You've been to some Anderson games.
Yeah.
You've seen some other teams play. And we're going to talk about some high school players individually. In the past, we've talked about teams, how teams are doing, the top 10 teams in Northern Kentucky and Ohio, Division I, II, and III. We're going to talk about some performers from different schools that are playing extremely well. We're going to start with Moeller High School in Jeremiah, Davenport. Now, with Jeremiah, you know, one thing with Moeller is Jackson Hayes, who's going to Texas. He gets a lot of attention. You know, he's 6'9", he's still growing, and there was a couple times this year where he caught some lob dunks and some dunks off a missed shot off the rebound, and everyone tends to focus in on that. But Jeremiah Davenport has been a huge key in Moeller's success this year. He's been able to offensively score in a lot of different ways. This kid is always hustling. Like, he doesn't stop from the time he gets in. And I attribute a lot of his success on the basketball court is attributed to the fact that he continues to hustle. You know what they say, when you play any sport, whether it's basketball, football, even tennis, if you constantly hustle, good things are going to happen. Jeremiah Davenport is going to Wright State, which I think would be a great fit for him. Wright State's doing very well.
Yeah.
There's another Moeller kid. Actually, there's two Moeller kids at Wright State currently. Grant Benzinger, who's he's definitely one of the best players on Wright State's team. Matter of fact, I went to watch Wright State play NKU this year, and let's see, Grant had 31 points.
Wow.
Yeah, he led both teams in scoring. The walk-on for Wright State is also from Moeller. So Jeremiah going there and fit in very easily. A lot of the kids that come from Moeller, they have a very good understanding of how to play team basketball and know the concepts very well. So Jeremiah is averaging about 15 points a game right now. That's a stat that you looked up.
Yeah.
You were in charge of looking up all the points per game.
Yeah.
Let's hope you were right.
Oh, it should be right.
If not, send all your messages to Will Sultan. What's your Twitter account?
Will Sultan.
Will Sultan.
Keep it simple.
They can send it right to you.
Complaints right to me.
Okay. So, second kid I want to talk about is Nick Dipole from Oak Hills High School. Nick Dipole is a kid. Now, you talked about getting stronger, gaining weight, being prepared for college. Nick Dipole has really done a tremendous job transforming his body. He was pretty skinny his freshman year.
Yeah.
I'd say he's like maybe as skinny as you. He's probably skinnier than you.
Yeah.
He's really he's fallen in love with the weight room, and on the court. And I always tell people, like, it's one thing to be skilled in basketball, to be able to shoot, you know, wipe the ball, get to the basket, finish, but there's another thing about being strong and getting in the weight room. And if you, let's say, Will, you're playing at Anderson High School.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're getting ready to play Oak Hills High School, and you see this kid that you have to guard, and he's buff. Like,
yeah.
He looks strong.
Yeah.
You get a visual in your mind right away that this guy's tough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So lifting weights plays a part in that. You know, you look at a kid and say, oh, he's tough. Nick looks the part. He's a West Side kid. A lot of times they say the West Side kids are tough dudes.
Makes you mentally tougher too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stronger.
Absolutely. And that's why you're getting stronger, right? To add to that mental toughness.
Yep.
Are you mentally tough on the tennis court?
Getting better.
Getting better.
For the most part,
that weight room will help with that. So Nick Dipole currently right now is averaging close to about 16 points a game. He's the heart and soul of Oak Hills' basketball team, and they're going to be a dangerous team come March during the playoffs just because their head coach Mike Price does such a great job. And it seems to me that this team, this Oak Hills team, really gels well together on the court. There's a lot of continuity going on. That's a large part to do with Coach Price and the culture and the system he has set up, but also has a large part to do with Nick Dipole, who's a senior leader on that team, and he really sets the tone. Third kid I want to talk about is Jarrett Cox from Lakota East. He's currently averaging about 18 points a game. I recently had a chance to go to Lakota East game versus actually Oak Hills, and Jarrett Cox hit the game-winning layup for them to win. And Jarrett Cox played a pretty good game. He's played well all season. He's a very athletic kid, can score in a lot of different ways. He can pull up, hit the 15-footer, attack the basket. He loves to catch that ball in transition and finish high. And if you're sleeping on defense in transition, he'll dunk on you. So Jarrett Cox also having a great season. LaSalle High School. LaSalle High School hasn't done as well this year as they have in the past. Coach Fleming, their former coach, retired last year. Coach Godey is in charge now, and he's trying to get his system and his culture in place. But they have one kid who's having an excellent season, and that's Riley Hobner, averaging about 18 points a game. Now, Riley, different than Nick Dipole, Riley is extremely skinny.
Really?
Yes, he is a beanpole. He has the longest arms. He's just a really, really skinny kid. He's wiry, but it works for him. And I would say if he probably was stronger, lived and dedicated to the weight room like the last 2 years, and he was stronger this year, he might be even better. But even as skinny, as wiry as he is, he's averaging 18 points a game. He's the leader of LaSalle's basketball team. And night in and night out, the opposing team is setting up their defense to stop Riley Hobner. So hats off to Riley for the job he's done in leading LaSalle this year. Another kid I want to talk about is a football kid, but a very underrated basketball player, and that's St. X's Chase Wolf. You ever heard of Chase Wolf?
Yeah, I heard of him.
Okay, star football quarterback for St. Xavier. He was part of that, if you remember last year, they won the state championship in football. Remember that? Yeah. And it was Chase and another young man were dual quarterbacks. They kind of split time, but the one young man got hurt. Sean Clifford is his name. He got hurt during the season. Chase had to step in, and Chase did an excellent job leading St. X. Yeah. And this year it was Chase's show. Leading the football team, and they did well this year. They lost, I believe, to Coleraine. Yeah. And didn't make it to the state championship game. But Chase is everybody looks at Chase and says, that's a football kid. But Chase comes from arguably the greatest sports family in Cincinnati. Really? I will argue with anybody that the Wolf family is the greatest sports family in Cincinnati. If you look through the lineage from the grandfather who coached with the Cincinnati Royals in the NBA, all the way to Chase's father, Steve Wolf, who played at Xavier University. He's now doing broadcasting for CBS basketball. His uncles were tremendous tennis players. His cousins were great basketball players. He has a sister that's a high-level volleyball player. It's just a tremendous family, especially athletically. So Chase, naturally, it almost feels like any sport Chase plays, whether it's basketball, football, he could probably pick up a tennis racket and be pretty good because his uncles all played tennis. You probably will know of his uncles. I'm not sure of all the ones that played tennis, but a very big tennis family.
Where's he going next year?
Who? Oh. Chase? Yeah. He's going to Wisconsin for football. Right. So definitely high-level quarterback. But on the basketball court, he's a very underrated player. He actually scores the ball pretty well. He can make tough shots. So, and what I mean by that is, it's one thing to catch and shoot when you're wide open and have the space to make shots, but he's able at times to create his own shot, and that's not always easy to do. And also, just naturally, him being a quarterback, I think he passes the ball very well. Mm-hmm. I went to St. X, played Roger Bacon earlier in the season, and Chase had some beautiful passes, and I'm just like, well, that's what a quarterback does. He actually, in a game earlier this year, I'm not sure who they played, but going into halftime, Chase got a rebound, and he threw. You saw that?
Yeah.
He threw it from the opposite free throw line and made it. Now, it didn't count.
Because
the time ran out. I text Chase, and I was like, man, that was awesome. He's like, too bad it didn't count. I'm like, what? Because I thought it counted.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I saw it on Twitter, but I didn't have the volume up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, man, that should have been on SportsCenter. I'm disappointed that SportsCenter didn't run something like Wisconsin quarterback makes, almost full court shot. That should have been something, but shame on ESPN. Moving on to a kid you know, McNick High School senior guard, Ryan Reedy. You've known Ryan for a while. And his family.
Yeah.
Great family.
Yeah.
Ryan's having a tremendous season, as is McNick, and he's leading that charge. He's averaging about 17.4 points a game, according to your research, right?
Yeah, I think it's right.
Well, hope so. That sounds about right. Ryan's having a tremendous season. I mean, this kid, one thing about Ryan is he's not like an overly vocal kid, and he's not I need to shoot the ball 25, 30 times a game. But what Ryan is he's a kid that leads by example. He will be vocal when he needs to be, and he takes the right shot. He makes the right play. And he's been like that his whole career. And a lot of times people are telling Ryan, you need to be more aggressive, you need to take more shots, you need to talk more. And he's done a better job at that. But being somebody he's not, sometimes, they tell you to be somebody you're not, and that hurts you. And Ryan's just been consistent being who he is. And that is paying dividends right now in his senior year. And he's leading McNick. I believe they only lost one game to Purcell Marion, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so that's the only loss this year. Having a great season. But on Friday, they play my alma mater, the Roger Bacon Spartans, at Roger Bacon. And Roger Bacon plays well at home. We're having a down season, but I told Ryan, you're in trouble against my Spartans this Friday. If you're around, we'll go.
Okay.
All right?
I'll go to that.
Okay, I'll pick you up.
McNick by 20.
You're predicting this?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to make a bet on this?
Yeah, I'll make a bet, any bet.
Okay, so let me write this down. You have McNick by 20?
McNick by 20.
I have Roger Bacon by 3. Okay?
Okay.
And you have to buy me a soft pretzel.
And
come on, you gotta be quick with this, man.
Bunny money. I'm just kidding.
I do. I forgot about that. So, all right. So we got that bet in place.
Yeah.
So
in place.
next podcast, we're gonna come back to that. Moving along to one of the best scorers in the city. This kid, I believe, is averaging the most points per game of anybody in Cincinnati, and that's Woodward High School's Terry Durham. He's averaging about 24 points a game. This kid is and I call him a kid, but he's actually a grown man on the basketball court. I recently had an opportunity to go to Woodward High School and watch their practice, and Coach Jarrell Redden gave me an opportunity to speak to the basketball team, and I really enjoyed that. I loved giving my message and helping keep these kids focused, because being a high school coach it's not easy for an entire season to consistently day in and day out motivate your kids at practice, because people get tired of practice, right? So anytime you can have a different voice or somebody come in, it's always great. So I got a chance to watch Terry Durham practice, and I tell you, he's a dog. Now I know he'll probably go to college for football. Yeah. I don't think he knows where he's going yet, but I'm telling you, the kid could play football and basketball in college. Some of the dunks he had in practice, I thought he was going to break the rim. He has a soft touch, can shoot the 3, and he just bullies people. Mm-hmm. You watch somebody I compare him to in some regards is Jarrett Cumberland. That plays for UC. Yeah. Very similar type of build. I think Terry might be a little bit taller than Jarrett, just a little bit. And it's just, he bullies people, and Jarrett did that in high school as well. It's tougher to do that at the college level. Yeah. Everyone's strong and lifting weights like you'll be doing at DePaul. Moving along to one of Roger Bacon, my high school's rivals, Summit Country Day. And they have a young man named Xavier Johnson. And I had a chance this past Saturday to go watch Summit play. They played Taft High School at Taft. And Summit won. I believe they won by 3 points. And watching Xavier Johnson, he's, in my opinion, he's Summit's best player. I'm sure statistically he's their best player. He might be averaging around 12, 13 points a game. The one thing about Xavier is he is so freakishly athletic. And he was doing things on the court that, you know, normal kids can't do. I mean, you can definitely see he excels on the football field. I mean, his ability to jump quick off the floor, whether it's rebounds or offensively getting to the basket and how quick he jumps up, just making some tremendous athletic and also very strong moves. And just found out at that game that he's going to Ohio State to play football.
That's awesome.
And I tell you what, if he goes to Ohio State, buys into their weight program there, I know Urban Meyer's the coach, and I believe Mickey Moratti is the strength coach at Ohio State, who ironically was my strength coach at the University of Cincinnati when I played for the Bearcats. How about that?
That's crazy.
I owe a lot to Mickey Moratti and what he did for me. Yeah, I weighed about 138 pounds when I was a senior in high school.
And you were the same height?
Same height. I left the University of Cincinnati. I weighed about 196, about 7% body fat. Now, Mickey wasn't my strength coach the entire time, but he was there from the beginning. I've got a quick story for you. So, my first day at UC, we had to get on the scale. This is before we started even practice or doing anything or even lifting weights. We had to basically get on the scale, get our height, weight, blood test, all that stuff. So we're going through that process, and Mickey Moratti's weighing everyone doing their height. I get on the scale, and Mickey Moratti looks at the scale, and I weigh about 142 pounds, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Wow, you can't play here." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You weigh 142 pounds. You can't compete at this level at 142 pounds." And it scared, that literally scared me. And he says, "You need to be in this weight room every day. You need to be." So he kind of laid out, this is what you're going to do. And he told me, you're going to leave here at 192. I actually left there at 196, 7% body fat. So a lot of my success I attribute to the blueprint and the foundation that he laid on day one when he kind of ripped into me. So Xavier Johnson going into that and being around Mickey Moratti, he's just going to do nothing but excel. I'd be shocked if Xavier Johnson didn't do well there at Ohio State.
Were you eating a lot?
Yes. So I'll just say this quickly. I would have to lift weights. And after I would lift, they would either send me to Domino's or Arby's. And Arby's used to have 5 for $5, where you could get 5 roast beef sandwiches and 5 French fries. And I would just get that, and I'd go back and eat as much as I could. Domino's had 2 for $1, where you could get 2 large pizzas for the price of 1, and I would get that.
And you would eat both?
I wouldn't eat all of it at once, but I'd eat as much as I could and then come back and eat the rest. But they were just trying to get me to. At that point, I really couldn't get fat, because I was so skinny and I was working out and playing. It was just a matter of I needed to just really get a lot of food in my system. And it's funny because, you know, fast forward to today, I don't eat red meat, pork, roast beef, any of that stuff.
Pancakes?
I'll have pancakes every now and then. Obviously, you had all-you-can-eat pancakes yesterday.
Yeah, I have $3.99. All-you-can-eat pancakes.
How many did you have total?
I only had 7.
You had 7 buttermilk pancakes?
Yeah.
Wow.
They start you with 5, and then they keep bringing them out 2 by 2. But I had 4 pieces of bacon and sausage.
Yuck.
4 of each.
So after 8, did you have 7?
7.
7.
But
you couldn't get to 8.
I couldn't finish the 8th.
Wow. But they brought 8 to you?
Yeah, they brought me 2 more. I just couldn't do it.
Wow. Good for you. Well, you need to go back and.
I know. I need to keep going back. I think I might go every Sunday morning now.
You should. I mean, and with you play so much tennis. You're young. You can put that weight on.
Yeah.
That won't be a thing. Good luck with that, man.
Thanks.
Yep. Moving along to another very good basketball player and football player. We've talked about 2 in a row. Terry Durham at Woodward Xavier Johnson at Summit, both very good football players. And a third kid is Indian Hills' Colin Shaw. Colin played football, very good football player, but even better basketball player. And I've said this before, not only on this podcast, but on in different venues I've said this. Colin Shaw will leave Indian Hill as the greatest athlete to ever come out of that school. Now, I don't know every athlete that's gone through Indian Hill, but I'm going to tell you what. He has the most points in the history of the school for basketball. I think the next closest person is maybe 200-300 points behind that. So, and he still has a lot of games to be played. And what he did on the football field statistically was awesome. I mean, this kid is a tremendous athlete. He's having a very good basketball season, has averaging 18 points a game. And actually, I went to watch Indian Hill play Madeira earlier this year, and Colin didn't have a great game. I think he had 6 points that game, and that was, I think, only the third time in his high school career he's had 6 points or less.
Wow.
But he usually puts up a lot of numbers.
Has he been starting since a freshman?
I don't know if he's been starting. I don't know that, but I know he's played a lot since he's a freshman. I've been watching him play for a long time. He's a high-energy kid. He's real bouncy on both ends of the court. He's better offensively than he is defensively.
Yeah.
But, you know, offensively, man, he's a guy that you have to constantly watch. If you even give him a little bit of space, that shot's going up or he's attacking the basket. Now, I said I was at the Indian Hill Madeira game, and somebody I want to highlight from Madeira, another football player. This will be the fourth football player I've talked about in a row here that's also a very good basketball player, and that's Jack Kravac from Madeira High School, averaging about 12.3 points a game. He recently became a 1,000-point scorer, which to me is very impressive for a big man. He's a big guy because big guys don't have the ball in their hand a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of points they're getting are off of rebound, putbacks, or just within a half-court set. So very impressive. Hats off to Jack Kravac. And he's going to be playing Division I football. He's going to Purdue.
You
know, so congrats to Jack Kravac. North College Hill, they have a young man named Lorenzo Sparks. I talked earlier about Woodward High School's Terry Durham, averaging about 24 points a game. Lorenzo Sparks is a little bit right behind him, averaging 21 points a game. This kid's super athletic, definitely high-energy kid. And North College Hill's head coach, Shannon Miner, he absolutely loves this kid, speaks very highly of him, not only as what he does on the court, but also what type of person he is. And that's always great to hear. I mean, all these kids I've talked about are great kids and definitely very coachable, but it's always cool to hear when you're 21-point scorer and your leader on your team is also a very good teammate and very good kid off the court. Speaking of another high scorer, Mariemont's Charlie Tripp. And this kid is getting buckets this year, averaging 21 points a game. And I think he might be up a little bit from that. Just recently, he had his career high in 36 points just the other night. Prior to that, he had 32 points in a game. So he's really putting up some great numbers. Charlie's another great kid, and in order for Mariemont to be successful and win a lot of games, they need Charlie to play well. So that covers, that's who I wanted to highlight today as far as our Ohio high school players, Division I, II, and III. I want to talk a little bit quickly about Kentucky, and I don't want to really jump into players in Kentucky, but I want to talk about two teams that people need to watch in Northern Kentucky, because I think these two teams could make a big run come playoff time. One of them is Newport.
Yep.
Newport right now is 17-5. Head coach Rod Snap. They're led by a couple guys. Mikael Burries, who's going to Pikeville. He's averaging about 23 points a game. He's putting up big-time numbers. He's a smooth left-handed shooting guard. Very quiet kid, very unassuming kid, but can absolutely get it done on the basketball court. Taj Harding, who's kind of like a Draymond Green type of player. He's a little undersized for his position, but he's a workhorse. He's a strong kid, can step out and shoot threes. I'm sure if I told Taj I called him Draymond Green, he'd be happy about that. But I have to tell him that. I've never told him that. And then thirdly, Donnie Miller, point guard. Another kid that's very quiet and unassuming, but has a burst of speed and a change of gear that's very, very impressive. And those 3 kids are very important keys to Newport's success. Now, Newport has a big game tomorrow night on Tuesday versus Cooper High School, who's one of the top teams in Northern Kentucky. I believe they're ranked 2nd behind Covcath.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. But watch out for Newport 17-5. If they can beat Cooper at Cooper, I'm going to tell you right now, watch out. I do not want to play Newport in the tournament. My other sleeper team is Walden Verona. I had a chance to watch them versus Campbell County earlier this year. They're 11-3, led by guard Brennan Stanley, who's just dynamic to watch. He's this little guard. He might be 5'6". Tremendous kid, tremendous family, and this kid is the heart and soul of their basketball team. He can penetrate, pitch, get to the bucket. And one thing that I was most impressed with Walden Verona was their ability to pass the basketball and look for not the good shot, but the great shot. You hear that? Say that. Not the good shot, but the great shot. And that's one thing that sometimes gets lost in high school basketball, because a kid goes, oh, I'm open, I should shoot it. But one thing you learn in college is you learn about percentages. Like, okay, I'm shooting this shot, but percentage-wise, the better shot's going to be to pass it one more time to this guy where he's at. And you learn those things at the college level, so sometimes high school kids don't know that as well. But Walden Verona obviously has been drilled on that. Brennan is not only a great scorer, but a great passer, and that whole team, I mean, the ability to penetrate, get to the lane, and pass the basketball, which makes them dangerous come playoff time. And when you play a team that passes the basketball and puts a lot of pressure on your defense, that can wear a team down. Walden just recently went on a big run for their season as far as wins. They're playing very well, so watch out for Walden. Now we're going to jump out of our high school basketball talk.
Jump into college?
We're going to jump into college. We're going to talk about my alma mater, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Have you been to a Bearcats game this year? You went with me, didn't you?
It was a pregame.
Okay.
Yeah,
have you watched them on
preseason.
TV recently?
I've seen a couple games, not too many.
Okay.
They're good, though.
They've played well this year, 19-2. And obviously they had 2 devastating losses earlier in the year to Xavier and Florida.
Yeah.
But I believe they've
since. Might have been a good thing.
You know what? You would think that.
Yeah.
You know, I think they've corrected some of the things and some of the mistakes they made against Xavier, against Florida. If we played Xavier and Florida now, both teams played each other now, I'd be very interested to see how those games would go based on where those 3 teams are. Currently, the Bearcats are ranked number 8 and playing well. Gosh, I think we're undefeated at home. Which is always good. I'm not sure I should probably know this. I'm sure Bearcat fans are going to rip me for this, but I'm not even sure what our home winning streak is at this point. I can't remember the last time the Bearcats lost a home game. I should probably know this. I've seen it on Twitter, but I can't remember. Which is great, because one thing you want to do in a college basketball season is hold down your home court. You don't want to lose at home, because you have tough road games, and you could go play at a UConn or at a Temple and lose, because road games are just tough. The travel, and the weather might be bad, and you got a lot of kids get sick. I mean, all that stuff factored in. You've got to win at home. So what I want to do now is I want to look at the next 5 games briefly and kind of forecast out my thoughts on how we possibly can do and what we need to do to win. And as I've said before in the podcast, I always break things down into mini seasons, right? Man, you're learning so much about basketball.
I know.
You might end up being like a basketball analyst.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
You owe it all to me? What? So, all right. They play Houston on Wednesday. Houston currently right now is 16-4. They recently beat Wichita State, who many consider the best team in the league. I'll tell you what, I don't care if Wichita State loses their next 2 games. They are a very, very dangerous basketball team, and they're going to be tough to beat come March. Now, back to Houston. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games.
Yeah.
The great thing is we play them at our place.
Yeah.
We're undefeated at home. they're playing some good basketball. I mean, anytime you go and beat Wichita State, I think they lost to Wichita the first time at Wichita. Second time they played, that Houston played Wichita, it was at Houston. I think they won convincingly, right?
Yeah, they did.
I think they were up big at half or something like that. So I predict Houston's going to be a tough game at home. I think we'll win, but it'll be one of the tougher home games we've had this year. After that, we play UConn this Saturday at UConn. Currently is 11-10. They're not playing very well this year. A little bit of drama going on with their head coach and some of their assistants regarding recruiting and maybe some violations. I don't know. I'm just saying what I see on Twitter. So Twitter, everything's on Twitter, right?
Everything.
Okay. UConn is 2-3 in their last 5 games. They beat SMU and Tulane. Now, UConn isn't playing well this year. 11-10. They've had a lot of ups and downs, but it's at UConn, and this game worries me. I don't want us to go and beat Houston and be 20-2. We've finally reached 20 wins in a season. We'll probably jump up in the rankings. We'll maybe go from number 8 to number 7 if anybody loses ahead of us. And we think, okay, we're going to go UConn and we're going to spank them, right? We're going to roll through them. And you take them for granted. So I think that's something where a lot of that comes down to coaching and Mick Cronin's ability to put fear in the Bearcat players' minds that UConn's going to beat you guys. And Coach Huggins was great at that, Will. We'd go on a great winning streak, and then we would go play like the bottom barrel of the league. We'd go at Tulane, and back when I played, Tulane wasn't, or Southern Miss wasn't the best team in the league. So let's take Southern Miss, for example. We go play at Southern Miss. They might have the worst record in the league, but that is their Super Bowl. So when we arrive in there, this is the biggest game of their season, right? Yeah. And they're ready. They're prepared. If you go in there thinking, we're gonna wipe these dudes off the court, you got another thing coming. So Coach Huggins would put fear in these guys are going to beat you, and here's how they're going to beat you. And then we would get angry. And then once we got angry, then he would slowly break it down into, okay, here's how we're going to win. You've got to do the following things, and you've got to do them really, really well. And I just always remember that every away game we had this fear, or any team we played that was in the lower part of the league, Hugs always built it up as they were way better than what their record showed. So I'm sure Mick, like many other coaches, is going to be doing the same thing as the Bearcats look to play UConn this coming Saturday. Moving on to a team that we've played before, UCF. We beat UCF last time at UCF, 49-38, and was one of the uglier,
lowest scoring first halves.
Oh, it was terrible. I think we had 15 points at half, something like that. I don't think anybody's using the film from that game to teach offensive efficiency. So we're back home. We played them at home, which I think we win that game pretty easily. We struggled down there on offense. We just play so much better at home. I just see us getting through that game and winning. Then we go play at SMU. So it's kind of like we're home, away. Yeah. So SMU, like the UConn game, does scare me a little bit. SMU currently is 15-7. They're 3-2 of the last 5 games. What scares me is, and this is something you did in your research, SMU is 13-1 at home. Yeah. 1-4 away. Yeah. We beat them last time here at home, 76-56. Actually, that was one of our better games against SMU. So I do worry about that. Like I said, we're going to go to at SMU. And let's just say the Bearcats beat Houston, sneak by UConn, beat UCF. Man, coming in SMU, that is going to be their Super Bowl for sure. We'll be, probably, if we can win those 3 games, we'll probably definitely move up in the rankings, would be my opinion, depending on how handily we win those games. So that SMU, of all the 5 games that I'm talking about here, that SMU game probably scares me the most. But I think even if we drop that game, if we lose that game, I'm not overly concerned about that.
Yeah.
I believe sometimes you could learn from losing.
Yeah.
That's one thing Huggins despises, is somebody saying you could lose, you can learn from losing. He can't stand that quote. But I truly believe that. And if we play SMU, and we play them tough, if we compete at a high level, I think there are a lot of things we can take away from that. Then we come back home, and we play Houston. So the two bookends of the 5-game mini schedule that I'm talking about, the two bookends are Houston. Houston at home the first game, and then the 5th game we play Houston at Houston.
Yeah.
And once again, that's another game that does scare me. Depending on how we do that first game against them at home, determines how I feel about us playing at Houston, and also how we play in the 3 games in between that after the first one. Will determine how I feel about that. So I'm thinking of these next 5 games. If we can get out of that 4-1, I definitely would be happy. I think we're playing good enough basketball to leave there 4-1.
Yeah.
And of the next 5 games, with us having 3 away games, there might be just a point where we just don't shoot the ball well, or whatever the case is, and things happen, man. It's tough. It's tough winning conference games on the road. So I think if we leave there 4-1, I think we're in good shape. And all this stuff just helps us prepare for March.
Yeah.
And making that run in the tournament, and hopefully making it to the Final Four. If UC makes it to the Final Four, I'm going to take you.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
No, that's the bet. We'll make that the bet.
No, what? The McNick?
Yeah, that's the new bet now.
So, okay,
20 or
deal.
More.
If McNick beats Roger Bacon by 20 in the Bearcats, I'll take you to the Bearcats Final Four game.
Yeah.
Deal?
Deal.
It is on. The only other thing I want to say about the Bearcats here is they've, and I've harped on this, and I probably, it's just beating a dead horse, it's a broken record, is I want to see better production from our bench. In our last game versus Memphis, we won 62-48 at Memphis. Gary Clark had 18 points, 9 rebounds. Evans had 14 points, I believe. What I liked, though, was Trevor Moore played 26 minutes, which, and I think he had 8 points. So that's really good. I liked that he was able to get some good minutes. I'm hearing that Trevor Moore is getting a lot of these minutes that I thought other freshmen were going to get, like Keith Williams. He's getting them from his great attitude and hard work in practice.
Yeah.
And it's good to see Mick reward a player that's doing those things in practice, because I honestly think, and this is no offense to Trevor, but I think Keith Williams is probably the better player as far as better suited to step in and play right away. But Trevor Moore has had the better attitude and the better work ethic in practice, and he's being rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And that's something that Keith Williams, just over time and maturity-wise, has to get better at. And he won't be the first Bearcat to come in as a freshman and not understand the attitude and the work ethic you need to have. I mean, he's still going to be a great player for the Bearcats, but it's just going to take some time. That Memphis game, we had 6 players that played under 10 minutes and 6 players that played above 20 minutes. So I'm hoping that of those 6 guys that played under 10 minutes, we can get some other guys to really step up and give us some great minutes, especially when we go on the road and play 3 tough conference games. We're going to need the bench to step up, because somebody might get in foul trouble. You always get hosed on the road with fouls.
Yeah.
So that bench is really going to need to step up. So that's my Bearcat report for this podcast. I'm not going to jump into any NBA right now. Kind of wait until after the All-Star game. And I think this Saturday, I'm going to go check out an NBA game.
Pacers?
Maybe Pacers 76ers.
The process?
Trust the process. I'm going to have a full report. Matter of fact, let's do that. Next week I'll have a full report on that game if I'm able to get to that game.
We'll call it the process report.
I like that. I like that. I knew you brought some sort of value to this podcast. I've not been able to figure it out.
But it's there.
Right that moment, I just figured it out. And I want to thank you for that, Will.
You're welcome.
Always want to thank you for your research and what you bring to the table here.
Of course.
That's all you got, of course.
Yeah.
You're a treat, Will. You are definitely a treat. And we want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of the No Further Comments podcast, the Basketball Insider. edition.
Insider edition.
Remember, they need to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And Will, tell them how they can do that.
NFC Podcast, Twitter, NFC Podcast, Instagram.
And we need to step it up and get a
Snapchat.
Yes. That'll be our next thing.
I'll work on that one.
Okay, we're going to work on that.
It'll just be pictures of me.
Just pick like selfies of you
Yeah.
on Snapchat?
NFC Podcast.
Well, we will not be having an NFC Snapchat. My social media, if you want to get a hold of me, is at Alex_Meacham, MEACHAM. And that's on Twitter and Instagram. But on Snapchat, I'm Big Meach 41.
Big Meach 41.
Easy, right?
Easy to remember.
Want to thank everybody for listening to another episode, and we'll be back next week with more high school hoops,
We'll be back.
more Bearcats,
And a little bit of the process.
Thank everybody for listening.